that could work. I could definitely see a person exchanging side work for money when they are not getting money from their job. However, unless the worker that's been furloughed is a maintenance worker, it's not automatically it's very arrogant, and it's not automatically true that a person would have any skills in maintenance whatsoever. Let's talk about this. So the Office of Personnel Management said feds, which they're referring to federal workers. Now, if you're not familiar, the federal government is still, can someone confirm that nothing's changed? I don't think anything's changed, but, just make sure. But the federal U.S. government is shut down, and all non-essential workers are furloughed, which means they're basically not getting paid for the work that they're doing because of the government shutdown. So the Office of Personnel Management has sent sample letters that you may use as a guide when working with your creditors during the furlough. If you need legal advice, please consult with your personal attorney. Now, first of all, the commenter at the bottom there is absolutely correct. Gesundheit.
Sorry.
What a useless letter. What regular Joe has a personal attorney? This is the equivalent of the middle finger emoji. And I give it right back to you. And I agree. This is... I think they meant to be helpful. At the same time, they did something that's a little bit unhelpful. Let me bring up...
The shutdown is still going on.
And the shutdown is still going on. So we are still in the middle of a federal government shutdown. So what happened? The website abovethelaw.com, which is a very fun website for you to read regularly. They have lots of the same kinds of law stories that we produce here, and in fact, occasionally we get notice of a story through a website like Above the Law, and we try not to plagiarize it, but we bring you something similar, because stories are stories, and they have some good stories. So here is one from Above the Law, and I'm not going to show. And I'm not going to show you their entire website because I want you to read it for yourself, and it's not a fair use for me to show you their entire website. But the beginning of this article is that helpful rent tips for federal government lawyers furloughed by the shutdown have also said they recommend that out-of-work employees take up maintenance work. And so we found the letter. So this is a sample letter to a landlord. Dear name of company or individual with whom you have spoken. Now, this looks like it's been printed out, crumpled up, thrown away in frustration, and then as the absurdity starts to reach the person who has crumpled this up and thrown it away, they've gotten it back out and uncrumpled it to say, wait a second, I need to post a picture of this on Twitter. And so Above the Law got a hold of this letter. And this is allegedly a copy of what the Office of Personnel Management sent out. And it says, this is to confirm our conversation of such and such a date. This is like a letter that you would have a conversation and then send out a modified letter, in which we discussed a temporary reduction in my monthly rent. As we discussed, I'm a federal employee who has recently been furloughed due to a lack of funding by my agency. Because of this, my income has been severely cut and I'm unable to pay the entire cost of my rent along with other expenses. As we've agreed in conversation, I will be able to make regular monthly payments in the amount of X. I realize that I will be responsible to pay the remainder of the payments when I return to work, and I will contact you immediately to work out a plan to take care of the reduced payment. I will keep in touch with you and keep you informed about my income status. And so far, all of this is unfortunate but normal. Until you get to, and I would like to discuss with you the possibility of trading my services to perform maintenance, e.g. painting, carpentry, in exchange for partial rent payments. Now, that could work. I could definitely see a person exchanging side work for money when they are not getting money from their job. However, unless the worker that's been furloughed is a maintenance worker, it's not automatically it's very arrogant, and it's not automatically true that a person would have any skills in maintenance whatsoever. I have friends who are very, very, very good at their job, and their job involves some very, very soft or technological things. And yet these people call me and ask me for help with installing very, very basic things that require mere screwdrivers or a hammer. And that's okay. That has to be okay. So now what? We expect some workers to be advantaged by the fact that they can do maintenance work, and other workers to be what? Just hung out to dry because they don't have any maintenance skills to help feed themselves with. So this was an extraordinarily tone deaf letter, and it turns out that the Office of Personnel Management may have agreed that that was a little tone deaf, because when we go over to the letter that's on their website now, it's not there. They have a sample letter to a creditor. They have a sample letter to a mortgage company. The letter to the landlord is gone. Not even edited, just gone. In fact, it might have been this last page. I don't know. But it's just gone and is not there anymore. Tactical did a little bit of research for us and found that this letter was, in fact, put out by the Office of Personnel Management with the maintenance line in there originally, and that it has since been removed. And we cannot. And if you go to the OPM's website now, you can't find that version of the letter.
Yeah. So using the Wayback Time Machine thing, we were able to see that there was a version that's had the trading maintenance services all the way back in 2015. And December 9th, it still had that extra line on it. So it's sometime after this particular shutdown started that they removed that page.
I'm one of your friends that it can't do anything. Like, I have no idea how to do the work around the house. Like Chris always has to come down here and like snake the drain, or like, like I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm good at my job of at my day job, but like, I have no common sense when it comes to things like carpentry and maintenance.
Yeah.
Oh, one of the things that was pointed out on Twitter as well is that there are certain employees that, if they're deemed essential, still have to go into work, and they still have to work. They're just not getting paid. So now they have to get the equivalent of a second job in order to be able to pay their mortgage.
How about the non-essential workers who didn't have to come to work? I don't know that they get repaid any of that money. They might literally lose all of that money if when the government is reopened, Congress doesn't also appropriate money to pay those non-essential workers' salaries. That's another thing I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
So.
Because they even highlight in the document that depending on what state you're in, you're able to possibly apply for unemployment.
Yeah, and so then we talk about corporate welfare, right? How like Walmart doesn't pay its employees enough, so they have to go on state benefits. Now the federal government's employees need to go on state benefits, and the states can't sue the sovereign United States federal government for that money. This is just a horrible situation all around, only made slightly more horrible by telling people, oh, go get another job.
Yeah.
As a maintenance worker.
Seem like a strange question, but for Washington, D.C., that's not a state. So
Correct.
How do they do like unemployment insurance benefits and stuff like that?
It would be a city law.
Oh, okay.
Or it would have its own special federal law just for DC or something. I'm not exactly sure.
Federal, if it's dispersed through the federal government, then I'm just wondering if they
DC can't necessarily sue the federal government. So concepts of sovereignty, the federal government is sovereign, meaning nobody can sue it successfully, except there's a caveat. The courts and the law has recognized that you can sue the sovereign if the sovereign gives you permission to sue it. In other words, if Congress creates a law that says you're allowed to sue the government for this. The Constitution is one of those laws. So like the Amendment 5 takings clause, that public property shall not be used for private purposes without proper compensation or due compensation to the offended party. It's not exactly the words close, but that is a remedy right there. If you have had property taken by federal or state eminent domain, you are due just compensation. And yes, there's a huge argument as to exactly what is just compensation and what's what's private property taken for public use. I reversed those when I said it. Sorry, but what is that? Like, so there was the whole Kelo versus City of New London thing, where the private property, the entire city basically at the waterfront district, was being taken by eminent domain for the pharmaceutical company that was going to run the waterfront property. Now that sounds like private property being taken for a private purpose. But no, the Supreme Court disagreed and said this, even taking private property and giving it to a private entity, or selling, I think they were selling it, but it was still not something that would have been able to be acquired otherwise. That even that is an okay taking as long as there is some kind of public service, the tax revenue from the waterfront, the additional attention that the area will now receive, and all that. Now, the end of the Kelo thing is that the backlash and the amount of time it took to get up to the Supreme Court actually shut down the whole City of New London project, and it became a ghost town for a while. I don't know its status now. I'm assuming it's bounced back because it's New London, Connecticut, I think. Not Rhode Island or Connecticut are still going to be very popular places to live that close to New York City and Boston. So there's no reason why the city wouldn't have bounced back by now. But for a time, when everything had been taken but couldn't be used yet because of injunctions and stays and things at the various court levels, the town was a ghost town. And the developer, I don't know if the developer went bankrupt, but the developer had to back out of the project because they didn't have financing. And what are you going to do? Just sit around and wait for a court case? No, you need your money. On that note, our $50 plus supporters for the month of January are Jonathan Doe, John Steele, Gavin Barnard, Evie, Andy, Kyle Mudrock, Vera Montaigne, Michael Pierce, Terry Crisp, Richard Fournier, Spirit Bear, Jan Negre, and Daniel Perez. Thank you very much for your support. Now, I know there are one or two of you who have contacted us for support outside of Patreon, so you won't be on that $50 list if you're a $50 supporter. I deeply apologize that I don't have you on that list yet. I'm also not sure that there were any $50 plus supporters on that list yet. So I will correct that as soon as I get back to the States and as soon as I have a chance to figure that all out. For now, the $5 plus supporters will be put on a crawl as well that will be edited into the video like normal. I don't have a Patreon panel or LED panel for you at this time. We will get back to that all when I get back to the States to my studio there. And we also plan on making some changes to that studio. The studio's been very cluttered for a year. Basically, every time we do a story or I do a technology thing or whatever, I just put the thing up on the thing, and now it's full. Now, how cool is that, though? We have a full studio background that is so full it needs to be pared down. So we're making it look more pretty, more watchable, a little less cluttered. Still Leonard French, not somebody else's version of what I want to do. But maybe we'll even have a live stream of like going over everything that's on the wall and then taking it down one at a time and then putting it back up. It's going to take hours, but we could do a stream on that. So thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for joining me. We love you all. Your support is invaluable to us, really. We use your money in ways to enrich the channel, and any little bit of enrichment that we get on the side is... I try not to spend your money directly on something on me that's unrelated. I don't go buy myself a new car or whatever. You're not going to see that. I will drive my car into the ground or until it's economically sound to sell it and get another used car or something, because I want to see this succeed. So I just want you to know that your support is greatly appreciated and used for, the purposes that I've stated. So thank you very much for joining me. I'm Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney, and I will see you in the videos that drop and in our next live stream. Love you all.